But Netanyahu was dead man walking before Gaza conflict began. He's a man who, made a gambit to take control of the Israeli judiciary so that he would not be charged with corruption charges. He's a corrupt individual, morally corrupt, politically corrupt. So he was dead man walking before this conflict started. This conflict allowed him to extend his political life by becoming a war prime minister, but he has fumbled this horribly. The only thing he's succeeded in is staying in power. He's lost this war, and now his war cabinet is collapsed. He's making a gambit to bring in even more right-wing people to sustain this. But the bottom line is his political future is dark. It's over. So to say he's gained anything, he's basically destroyed whatever was left of his reputation. He will go down in history as, and this is ultimately where we are, the man who destroyed Israel, the man who is why there is no longer a state of Israel, because there will no longer be a state of Israel. Netanyahu has killed Israel. Israel can't continue to exist. You can't beat Hamas. It's lost the support of the world. It's losing even more support. You have a UN Security Council resolution supported by the United States against Israel. You have President Biden threatening to do things to Israel if he doesn't do this. But no matter what, the propaganda exercise, which was how Israel sold itself to the world and to itself, is finished. Israel's been exposed as a fundamentally morally corrupt state. The Zionist enterprise is one that's based upon apartheid and genocide. Two words that people were struggling to, you weren't allowed to say these words beforehand. Today, it's embraced by the world. It's an apartheid state, a genocide state. This is how Israel is defined. Its economy is in shambles. The only way the Israeli economy was going to be sustainable is if Israel normalized relations with its Arab neighbors and became an integral part of whatever economic miracle they were trying to do, whether you wanted to call it the India-Middle East Economic Corridor or some other version thereof. That's over. That's not happening. The Israelis find themselves, the Houthi have effectively blockaded the Israeli ports. They're not going to recover. Hezbollah and Hamas have shown that Israel will never live in peace, ever. That the skies of Israel can be filled with missiles at any time, and that's not part of the Israeli dream that people flock to when they, when they took Aliyah. People are starting to leave Israel, and increasingly people will flee Israel because you can't live in Israel. It's unsustainable. Israel will be compelled because of international pressure to seek a two-state solution. In order to do this, though, Israel will have to solve a number of internal problems, one of which is the West Bank settlers. Those settlements will have to go. This will lead to a major fracture, political fracture, societal fracture in Israel. More people will flee Israel. Ultimately, what will happen is that the demographics of Israel will be altered such that it becomes impossible to speak of a two-state solution because the Israeli element of the two-state solution is so minimal that it has to become a one-state solution. And this is what will happen. Israel will cease to exist. It will be replaced by something called Palestine. In Palestine, there will be a Jewish component. There will be a Christian component, but it will be a predominantly Muslim component. That's the future of this region. And there's nothing that anybody can do to stop it. The trajectory of history is such that Israel has not only morally lost the right to exist, but they have practically lost the ability to exist over time. Because all the things that are required to keep the Zionist entity known as Israel alive and well and living are finished.
In your opinion, does Zionism care about the future of Israel? Because what they're doing right now, what they've been doing, is just against the future of Israel, any sort of brightness in the future of Israel. But the problem is, how do they see Israel and its future? Why they're doing this, in your opinion?
To really answer this question, and you know me, I'm not afraid of answering. You have to dig down into places nobody wants to go. You have to realize that Israel has always been a propaganda exercise, and not for the benefit of Israel, that Israel exists actually to empower elements that reside in other nations. That, and I'm very careful not to call it a Jewish conspiracy, because then that becomes literally, by definition, anti-Semitic. It's a Zionist conspiracy. And the Zionist conspiracy is to use the symbol of Israel, whether it was the potential of Israel leading up to the creation of Israel or the reality of Israel afterwards, as a mechanism of political and economic empowerment around the world. In the United States, we have what we call the Israeli lobby. It's the Zionist element of it. It's used by a number of people for political empowerment here in America. Everybody, and I was one of them, always said, well, the Israelis have bought the American Congress. No, American Zionists have bought the American Congress. And they control the political, and they use Israel as a mechanism of empowerment. How else do you take a population of such small percentages and give them the political and economic influence that they have far above the actual numbers that we're talking about? The Zionist enterprise has enabled it. It comes in a number of ways. Norm Finkelstein has always talked about the Holocaust. What do you call it? The Holocaust. Basically, it's a scam. Not saying that the Holocaust didn't exist. No one's saying that. Of course it exists. It's horrible. Happened. Never again. I'm a firm believer of that. But to use the Holocaust as a mechanism of economic and political empowerment, and that's part of the Zionist entity. And in doing so, what they've done is they have destroyed their own history, because they're creating enough political animus that people, by attacking them, are indirectly attacking the memory of the Holocaust. They've trivialized the Holocaust. It should have been something that causes everybody to take pause, everybody to fall on their knees, everybody to cry and say, never again can this happen to not just the Jewish people, but any people. That's what, if you truly believed in this, you would do. And yet these people who want to turn this Holocaust memory into a justification for what they're doing in Gaza, it doesn't work that way. You've just destroyed the credibility of what you think you were trying to build here. But and so what the Zionists have done now is they've made any talk of what I've just said, they label as anti-Semitism, hate speech, etc. It's not. The Zionists are the hate speechers. The Zionists are the intolerant ones. The Zionists are the ones who are on the wrong side of history. Not the Jews, the Zionists. But we deal in a world where people, we have a lot of ignorant people in the world today. And so it's very dangerous to talk about anti-Zionism without creating the conditions for anti-Semitism, because there are people out there who are unable or unwilling to differentiate between the two. And so then it becomes an attack on Jewish institutions, the Jewish faith. And this is the absolute wrong direction to go. You can't allow the animosity one feels towards the Zionist entity known as Israel to become anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish. And at the moment, I don't think the world is capable of making that distinction. So it's a very dangerous time for the Jewish people, very dangerous time for the Jewish people, because the Zionist entity has allowed the memory of the Holocaust to be sullied, to be diminished, to be forgotten, to be used, to be abused. And once you do that, and then you allow the creation, the ability of